It's no secret that the best portable games are ones that don't feel portable at all. Titles like The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, or any Pokemon game really, are deep and involving experiences. They'd work just as well on a home console as they do on, say, your Game Boy. And that's all fine and dandy, but sometimes you don't have time to get into it, you know? Say you're at the doctor's office, and it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, but there's no time to really get anything done. Or what if your friend ran to the store and you're just waiting in the car for a second? This is where games like Tetris or Dr. Mario come into play. And they're pretty much the best there is, so nothing's really going to top that. But if you're looking for something different, you might want to try Penguin Wars. Of course, this one's a tough sell. And before I even get into whether it's good or bad, you gotta remember that today there's a lot more casual games on the market. People love Angry Birds and whatever other iPhone, tablet, whatchamacallem games they got. I'm talking to you more as a retro gamer, someone who enjoys playing on the old gray, black and white, black and green Game Boy. Yeah, I guess there's something unique about that experience that these iPhones and Apple devices just can't replicate. The first thing to do when booting up Penguin Wars on your Nintendo Game Boy is to turn down the volume. And here's why. Oh, I guess I should have told you to plug your ears. Pretty bad, huh? The arena in Penguin Wars is a large table, kind of like table tennis, but with no net and more balls. You have an animal at each end and 5 balls each. The goal is to get all the balls to your opponent's side, or have more balls on their side than on yours when the timer runs out. But it's not just a matter of throwing balls as fast as you can. There's a little bit of strategy, or rather, there's one strategy. If you hit your opponent, he'll become temporarily stunned, and if you continue to hit him, he'll remain that way. So your best bet's to knock him down and keep him down. It's basically a guaranteed recipe for success. The only problem is your opponents are a little bit tricky. The AI is actually deceptively good. They're very good at dodging and throwing and aiming straight at you. Because trust me, they have the same idea you do. They'll try and knock you down, and if they do, that might just be it. And I know the song says, if you get knocked down, just get up again, but it's not always an option. I guess Penguin Wars is a bit of a reality check, you know? The world is a cruel place, and it's not always going to work out the way you want it to. Kind of a weird place to learn a life lesson, but hey. The game's set up kind of like a Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter tournament, except with more balls and more hair and animals, right? When you start, you pick an animal, and then you face off against the others. Luckily, you never have to face yourself, because that would be weird. I guess it would cause an entire time-space collapse. You know, like in Back to the Future Part 2. You beat a match by winning 2 rounds. So, at most, each match will run 3. If you lose, it's game over. If you win, you fight the next animal. Once you've fought all the animals, they all stand on a podium, and some cry and some cheer, and then you start again. Yeah, it's a little shallow. They are tougher the second time around, but once you've played the first 5 rounds, you've pretty much seen everything the game has to offer. If you're a fan of challenge, it's okay, but if you like to see a lot of new scenery or characters, this is not the game for you. In the second tournament, the animals will like to use the charge shot. Luckily, you can also do this. You can grab a ball and charge it to throw it faster across the board. The problem is if you charge it too long, you get paralyzed. And as I said, if you're paralyzed, you're pretty much done. Personally, I never use the charge shot, but maybe that's why I suck at it. The rabbit in particular is very aggressive. He likes to throw that thing around like nobody's business. Each animal has his own strengths or weaknesses. The penguin's kind of like the Mario of the gang, he's average in every way. The rabbit, as I said, has a really good charge throw. The rat's really fast, but once he takes a hit he's done, and his throw's not very strong. And the cow, well, she's the comeback queen. She moves slow, and she throws kind of average, but the thing is, once she gets knocked down, she gets right back up. Trust me, I've been at a point where all the balls are coming my way, and once that last one rolls in my gutter, I'm done. But then that cow snaps back into action and starts chucking those things right back. It is a sight to behold. Well, not really, but it's still kinda cool. I think they should remake Penguin Wars, except take out all those other animals and focus on just the penguins. Yeah, I'm thinking like March of the Penguins, versus Happy Feet versus Surf's Up versus Pebble and the Penguin versus the Madagascar Penguins? Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. I'm getting sick of penguins, and I want to see them kill each other in horrible, horrible ways. Put like explosives in the balls and splatter them all over the board. Or maybe make big spiked balls they throw and impale each other. Or drop the balls all together and use a combination of firearms and knives. And don't go thinking this is some nonsensical hatred of penguins. I admit that they're kinda cool. They walk like humans and waddle, and they're pretty cute. They're very interesting birds, but the problem is there are other animals. Take the capybara for instance. It is the largest rodent in the world. That's really cool. But when I go to the zoo, he's all the way in the back. Like, he's real far away. You can't even see him. He's like a little brown dot in the distance. But the penguins, they get their own penguinarium. Yeah, how pretentious is that? Now, I'm not saying we should make penguins extinct. No, that's going a little far. I'm just saying, if they do make another Penguin Wars game, which they won't, I want it to be violent, and I want penguins to die a lot, which they also won't do. If they were to remake it, it would be basically the same game, I think. Okay, time for a fan game. If you beat your opponent in a complete shutout that's 2-0, you get to play a bonus round. Here, you basically just throw balls across the board as fast as possible. It's completely random where the balls spawn and if you're near them when that happens. And these little bugger things appear in the middle of the board, moving back and forth. They reflect the ball if it hits them. In the harder difficulties, these characters will also enter the actual matches. Luckily, your opponent's balls are just as likely to bounce off them as yours are. And each of these obstacles has different attributes. I couldn't really observe the difference, but I see that it's there. Sometimes the balls will bounce at odd angles, and other times they bounce right back. Overall, the physics are pretty good on these balls. They move at different speeds, and they bounce around once they hit the gutter and roll back up. It's kinda cool and realistic. And the graphics aren't bad either. I mean, they're not mind-blowing or anything, but it's the Game Boy, right? So you take what you can get. At least everything looks like what it's supposed to. Except the rat, he's kinda weird. In a way, Penguin Wars is kinda like the original Angry Birds. Except it plays completely different, and people actually know what Angry Birds is, so it's not really like that at all, except that it also involves birds. I'm rambling. I guess what I'm getting at is it fills a similar gaming niche. It's something you can play at the doctor's office, and when you get called in, you'll just turn it off. You don't really care. And even if you do well, there's no one to brag to. There's nobody who's going to be envious of your Penguin Wars score. They're going to be like, what the hell is Penguin Wars? So if the price is right, and you often find yourself in a position where you don't want to read a book, but you want to do something, give Penguin Wars a try. You might kind of somewhat enjoy it, maybe. And what about emus? Yeah. When you say emu in gaming, people think about emulation. Yeah. The emus are cool. And the kookaburra, there are a lot of cool birds that should get their own movies and video games. Ostriches, yeah, that's where it's at.